Without further ado, I am delighted to momentarily get out of the way and welcome in our instructor for today's webinar, Atlassian Certification, 5 Insider Tips for Success, my wonderful colleague, Joanna Thurman, who is a senior certification developer at Atlassian. Joanna, when you're ready, feel free to share your screen and get us started with the first tip.
Well, thanks very much, Jamie. So I already had the opportunity to say that those of you who are here interested in the cloud certification, please do stay around, because a lot of what we're going to talk about applies to both exams. There's a content slide that applies very specifically to 100, but guess what? You have the 3 best experts here, not just myself who's going to be presenting the slides, and there's only like 7 of them. So this is definitely not a slide heavy presentation, but also Emma and Marie, who are in the thick of the weeds working on certification exams and the preparation material. So you get to ask whatever questions you have and feel confident in approaching an exam. That's really what the goal here is. We want you to feel like you're going to be able to do well and that you're ready. And when you feel ready, that you'll go in confident and therefore be able to pass. So with that, our number 1 tip is schedule. Now, this may sound obvious, but what we're trying to say is there's a lot of content, as you'll see, for all the certifications we have. So if you're able to schedule at a date at the testing center, you can just go ahead and go online to our certification pages. It tells you how to schedule and register for a testing center date. And then you'll be able to kind of work backwards with the time frame and know how much to study. That you can probably schedule an exam tomorrow. There's probably dates available tomorrow. That's probably not when you're ready. But if you say, okay, I want to take it in, the end of October, you'll know what you're working with. So that is the best tip, because there's a lot of content and it'll hold you accountable to doing it. Now, we have the certification prep courses. That's one of the ones that's just coming out brand new for the ACP 100 Data Center. There is one for the cloud certification already, and we're constantly working on improving those. So just because we're not saying, oh, it's coming out new, doesn't mean that it's not a good prep course. It is. We're just always trying to take it up a notch and give you more valuable content, more sample questions, those kinds of things. But assign concrete dates to when you're going to go through a particular bit of material, how many sample questions you're going to do in a particular week, and so on. And and tip number 3, we say generally 6 to 10 weeks to prepare. And the reason is that even if it's been many years, many moons that you've been working with Jira, there's just stuff you might not touch every day. And so you want to be fresh with that material, with that content, so that when you see it on an exam, you'll be like, yep, I know this, I got this. And so you want to work on that schedule consistently, putting in maybe about 4 to 6 hours a week. It sounds like a lot, but again, it depends on your experience and it depends on your readiness. And you'll only know that when you sign up for the course, enroll in the course, and start looking and working through the various objectives and sections. And so that's that. That's it for tip number 1. And let's see if we have some questions we can answer from you all. And remember, 4 more tips, lots more opportunities for questions too.
Melina, I hate to put you on the spot, but I do see, okay, look, we're going to see another live. Melina, if you are up for coming on mic, I can allow you to talk right now. Let me know if you are. If not, no worries. I do see that you're still on mute. Okay, what we can do is move to Leandro. Whoops, I just lost my little participant thing.
Leandro, you're live. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hold on just one moment. Oh, were you able to get him to talk?
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Joanna.
Are you listening?
We are listening.
We're listening.
Hi, girls. I'm from Brazil, and I work with Jira for about 3 years, managing processes, projects, and working in progress too. And I'm getting prepared for the ACP 612 cloud managing projects. And I would like to know, what is the medium period of preparation that I should take if it's the same that you told, 6 to 10 weeks or less of it, or and I want to know if you recommend a link with a material that I can study for a best preparation, because I bought the Udemy course for preparation with 2 mocks, 75 questions each, but I want more preparation, and I would like a recommendation in order to get better prepared. Sorry, my English conversation is not very good. I can understand everything you say, but the conversation needs more practice.
So shall I take this question, Jamie? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes,
So
go for it.
that's a great question, and it's good to know that you're interested in 620. That's my favorite exam, and I would say that if I had 3 years experience as a JIRA administrator, I would say that 6 weeks would be you'd be looking more at the minimum rather than the maximum. Of course, the more study you do, the more likely you are to pass. And there is a course on that, and I believe someone can. I can't type and talk at the same time, unfortunately. Very single task focused. But there is a course that will help you on that. It's very extensive, and there are some sample questions in there as well. And of course, those sample questions are actually written by us, and we're the people who write the exams. So, you know, they will reflect those actual questions. So those are very useful to review, I think, before you go into the course. I think I covered all of the major points of that. And I'm very impressed. You said your English is not great, but I think it is. I wish I could speak Portuguese, but unfortunately I can't. I think I covered the main salient points there. If anyone else feels there's something to add there.
But Emma, you were going to also answer Melina's question with respect to English.
Yes. And I was also going to say that we have people writing the items or the questions who are not native language speakers to make sure to keep us native language speakers and to make sure that they're understandable. So I think that it's very approachable for people who don't have English as their first language. And it's not like you're being asked to, like, it's multiple choice as well. So you're not asking, you know, typing questions out. We're not looking at grammar. And as I say, we try and write them as approachably as possible with the mindset that we know that there are people from all across the world taking those questions. So we specifically focus on making them as answerable as possible. And as, you know, we make sure that people don't use jargon and they don't throw in, you know, I don't throw in some English colloquialisms that you won't understand. So I think that you'll be fine with the exam. If your at admin level is great, then you'll have no problems with the exam.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks
you very much for your
question.
Leandro.
Thank you.
So I have one from Frederico. If someone can take
is this a live or not live?
it is a live.
All right, let me get
You're okay answering your question.
Allow to talk. And this will probably be the last one for this first question, because we want to make sure to get to all the tips. All right, Federico, if you'd like to come off mute, you are welcome to go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Basically, my question is because I'm just finished last year 610 and 620. And then this year I want to approach for the 120. But when I saw, for example, the 420 for the JIRA Service Management, because it's another exam that I will try to get in a few months after I got the 120, I saw that the material was really organized in the course prep. But for 120, when I took that exam, when, you know, was like, I don't know, was 2 years ago or 1 year ago with the discount, I saw that many of the questions are inside the PDF from the, you know, the labs, but many of them related mostly for example, organization permission was really difficult inside the exam because you need to basically work in a huge company to know, for example, some of that kind of tips. So for that reason, my question is, we still need to, see that PDF and then go to the community for more information and basically be around on the Atlassian documentation, or everything now is, for example, in one place so we can basically have that as a main material. And then if I have any other question, okay, yeah, I can go to other places. Thank you very much.
Sure, that is a great question. So we have these exam success courses, and for the ACP 100, it is live, and you could go look at it if you wanted to. It's free, and you'll see that we cover the course content, and then there's also a downloadable PDF that for each objective in the exam, there'll be links to go to Atlassian documentation for more help if the exam success course wasn't enough. We're actively working on the same thing for the 120, and I'm very excited about it because we've really dug in and tried to get as much information in that course content so that people don't feel the need to go to those links, and that will be coming soon. So the short answer is that yes, we will have the course content where you should be able to take the course. You might have to visit some of the links, you might have to do some practice, but that course should be definitely get you on your right foot to get you to pass the course.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your answer. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. All right, Joanna, are you ready for tip number 2?
I sure am. All right. Well, we had lots of great questions, and if we didn't get to answer them right now, wait, because we can get to them in the next few tips. And you're asking all the right things. I commend you for being here and for saying yes to trying to get certified. It's having those credentials is really important in the business. We've done a couple of surveys over the years to see how helpful it has been to Atlassian professionals to have those credentials, and it's been overwhelmingly helpful and positive. So kudos for being here and for trying that. However, studying alone won't be enough for you. So you need to practice in the product. And so our tip number 2 is exactly this: having a study environment where you create it from scratch. And so let's talk about the both ways in Cloud and Data Center. In both prep courses for these exams, and I'm talking about the Jira administration, either in Data Center and Cloud, because if you're attempting the 620 we mentioned, or the 610, which is the project administration, there isn't the focus on sort of all the admin-y features of the product. It's really about the project. So you may maybe not necessarily have to install the product. You may just be able to create a project in whatever instance you're normally working in for your job. However, for the Jira administration exams, you really gotta know all about the application. So let's take this one at a time. What would you do for Data Center and for Cloud? For Data Center, you can actually download on your PC, your Mac, the Data Center app, and just install the licensing for a single node, which is basically the equivalent of having Jira Server installation. And as you'll see in the next tip, that's fine. So if you have a staging instance in your company, or a test instance, great, use that if you really want to. But we do recommend the practice of installing it in Data Center or Server Data Center instance, and then sort of seeing all the defaults that you get, because a lot of times by the time that the product comes, that you're working with Jira, it's already been modified from the default out of the box settings. So we provide you an instruction page for Cloud and for Data Center with how you can get started with your very own environment that you can practice in all the bells and whistles. So check out those course preparation pages. Secondly, whoops, sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Once you have an environment, go through every admin screen. So there's things that you really don't touch except the first time that you install the application. And so you might never go back into that. Default user preferences, for example, they've kind of set there for you if you inherited a Jira. But we want you to go through all the menus so that you kind of, when it refreshes you into like, oh, I discovered something, maybe I can use that on your job. Because the point of this is also so that you become a better Jira admin and hence a better Atlassian advocate for your company. So do that. And then of course, play around with, especially with things you don't do. So you probably every day are in permissions and project roles and workflows for both platforms. But then there's that kludginess. Like I said, password policy, and you're like, oh, I don't know. So go play around with that, see what that's like. So that's it for tip number 2, and let's go back into our questions.
Fabulous. Marie, should we start with Nicholas's question?
Sure, yes. So Nicholas, your question was, is the exam multiple choice? It is. There are multiple choice questions for every item, and typically there's one answer, but there might be occasions where there's more than one, and if that's the case, you'll see how many you have to answer. And then I also have one here for this topic of the price. So you can set up a free instance of either Data Center or Jira Cloud. So don't worry about having to pay extra to set up that environment.
Wonderful. Is there someone, does someone else have a live question that I can find an attendee and ask them to talk?
There are a number of people who are asking questions about passing ACP 620. So Ashley. Okay. So I was
Carolina,
just going to, yeah. About
okay, you want to just talk to that generally, Emma? And
yeah,
then we
I can talk to that generally. And
if anybody would like to ask about that specifically, yeah.
Yeah. I think with 620, it's like what Joanne just said. So the way that I have approached taking the exams in the past is to look at those areas, and I suppose maybe it's fairly obvious, but the areas that you don't look at frequently, like Joanna says, you as an administrator, you'll know permissions and stuff off the top of your head, but certain aspects of a workflow, for example, so like workflow properties. This isn't 620, that's not in there, but as an example, or for example, for 620, like with workflows, understanding the statuses and what you can change as a project administrator with those statuses. It might not be something that you do frequently, but those sorts of areas that you don't frequently touch, I would say focus on those. And also there are places where you can get, there's some sorts of in the community area, Atlassian community, there's a whole section for certification, which is very helpful. Definitely go through the 620 materials that we have, the exam success courses. Definitely take the course because the exams are very much based on the managing Jira projects course very specifically, so that is very helpful. And then if you go through the student guide and look at the notes for that course, those are very, very detailed, and they're detailed with the aim of giving you that information that you should have in order to pass the course. So I can, it does take a lot of study, I think, extra just to make sure that you are going to pass, but I appreciate that it is challenging. We do have to make the questions quite challenging for everybody. We do get a lot of people who do pass as well. I don't know if anybody else wants to pitch in on that one, if I missed anything.
If not, I see another great candidate for a live question.
Yeah, just a quick one on that one. So like Emma said, we recognize they're challenging. You can continue to take them multiple times, just wait 7 days in between retakes. Again, as the more preparation you can do with the prep courses we're offering you, the better. For the 620 in particular, we expect that that you have the equivalent knowledge or have taken that Managing Jira Projects course, but also done some preparation in the areas that are on the exam, which includes the exam topics guide that we provide. So, and then asking questions on community is fabulous. The community is very, very active and wants to help you to pass the exam. So go with that. I've also let Claudio answer or ask his questions live. So go ahead, Claudio. Claudio Umbrella, you can answer, you can ask your question live.
If not, we can move to the next one too. I see a question from Mustafa about the difference in difficulty and scope between like something like Jira Admin 1 and 2 and the ACP courses, which might be nice to talk about.
Okay, I'm not seeing that question.
I could talk to that one if
okay.
you like.
Okay, great. I will, Mustafa, I am pulling you in. If you'd like to talk, you're welcome to.
Hi, Mustafa.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can. Hi.
Thank you, Jamie, for all that, and thank you to the Atlassian team as well for making this happen. This has been really, really beneficial so far. So thank you so much. I am part of a small team here. I work with Service Rocket, one of the first Atlassian partners. I'm part of a small team here based in London. So I don't know where you guys are in the world, but wherever you are, I hope you're all doing well. I won't go on too long. I just wanted to ask, at the moment, I'm going through the some of the Jira admin courses and doing some of the lab work. I've not managed to get onto an ACP course yet. The next one I'm trying to get onto is the AP620. I just wanted to know, in terms of the actual and how challenging it is between, say, something like the Jira admin courses and the ACP courses. What should a potential candidate expect in terms of difficulty? And if you could just sort of shed a little bit more light on that, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
I think in terms of the courses that Atlassian University offer, that I would definitely take the Managing Jira Projects first and take that exam as a preparation for taking the Jira Admin exam. And I would do both 1 and 2. And 2, Admin 2, the Jira Administration Part 2 course, which is the Atlassian University course, is has a lot more information in it in terms of covering areas like workflows, for example. But I would also recommend that you take the workflows course from Atlassian University, as that is super helpful for helping you to answer questions on workflows. And also the prep material is super helpful. But also just like hands-on, like we've been saying, you know, like a little bit of create yourself a little bit of a study plan. So if you're looking at permissions, then look at the permissions that you don't frequently use. What kind of permissions do you need in order, for example, like to copy one thing, one issue to another project, and to assign an issue or to have an issue assigned to you? Those sorts of permissions that it's not completely clear from their name what they do. So when you're just make sure you're very sure on those sorts of things. And as I say, those sort of things that you will look at once and as an administrator, and maybe not frequently check. So those are the basics in the administration panels of when, I don't know, for example, like email settings, for example, which you won't frequently look at. But somebody else might have. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you for that, Emma. I appreciate that. Just a very quick follow-up. In terms of the actual concepts, what would you say historically candidates tend to struggle with in terms of the concept? I've looked at schemes at the moment, and trying to decipher all the different types of schemes has been a little bit of a challenge. Would you say that's usually the most sort of challenging part when it comes to especially Jira, or just a little bit more insight on that would be great?
Actually, I'm gonna jump in here because that's in our next tip. So
perfect. Thanks for the transition, Mustafa. That's perfect.
Not at all.
All right, we appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thanks, Mustafa, because exactly that. Everybody wants, well, what's being covered on the exam? Are you seeing my screen there, Jamie?
I sure am. Thanks, Joanna.
Yeah, so each exam actually has the exam topics guide, which tells you the main sections that are on the exam, the amount of content that is, or the amount of exam content that's going to appear regarding that main section, the objectives within each section. So it's like, what about schemes do I need to know? Or what about, system settings do I need to know? So you want to definitely sort of have that. If you're serious about taking an exam, you've scheduled it, 6 weeks out or whatever it is, have that next to your desk. That exam topics guide is like the thing that you should be memorizing and the items you should be studying. And like Marie mentioned earlier, we provide links to content to learn more. So if it doesn't immediately make sense to you when we say, create a project from a shared configuration, you're like, not sure, there'll be a link there that you can follow and read up a little bit more, so that you don't have to digest all of Atlassian documentation, but that specifically to that objective, you can go and read and then play around more. So you want to skip what you don't need to know, and I'll talk about that more specifically in just a second. But that's all coming from that exam topics guide. You want to focus on the major test areas, which definitely is, Mustafa, the schemes. For both the 100 and 120 Jira Administration and Cloud and Data Center. But even on the 620 and 610, the project admin, you need to be aware of what are schemes and in the cloud in company managed projects. So you want to focus on those major test areas. Now we'll go through that in a sec. And then go through each of the objectives that we tell you on that exam topics guide. Objective means something like be able to configure permissions for company managed projects in the cloud. So that's an objective, right? And then we'll give you the links to that. And then things that you work with every day that you feel like, I got this in the middle of the night, they ask me a question, I can answer it, then keep going and flag things you might be a little more iffy on. So given that tip, for the ACP 100, these are the major topic areas. We call these sections. Advanced user features. What we mean by that is that's JQL, for example, or how to make bulk operation updates, or how to configure dashboards and filter subscriptions. That's in that area of advanced user features. So what we're trying to say here is, even though you're studying to be a Jira admin, you got to know what the end users are doing, because they're going to come to you for questions. That's number one. Then there's configuring global settings, layout design. I'm not going to go through each of these in detail, but when you print out your exam topic guide and paste it right next to your desk, you should focus specifically on these, because these are the majority of the exam for the ACP 100. But guess what, folks? Same for the cloud. So though there's 8 major sections in the ACP 120 exam, the cloud Jira administration, those are the heavy hitters as well. So so this is the stuff that you really got to focus on, because most of the exam questions are going to be in those areas. And so, of course, project access permissions, right? And that's global permissions, project permissions, issue level security. In the data center, we have application access. In the cloud, we have user management through the Atlassian Admin Hub, right? We have general project configuration. So that means, how do you create projects from a template, from a shared configuration? What does that mean? And all the schemes you're going to get. Then issue types, fields, and screens, right? That's the schemes and workflows. So no matter which exam you, for the administration, Jira administration, you got to look at that. Having said that, we did get a lot of questions about data center specific stuff. Do you need to know nodes and replication? And so the good news for the ACP 100 is, skip this because it's not on the exam. You don't need to know how to install, upgrade, rollback, anything about disaster recovery. You can, we're not asking about this. Scripting or building listeners. Nope, you don't have to know that. And you also don't have to know any very DC only features. So this is where we got nitty gritty. You don't have to know any of this stuff. That's great news, right? Can we have a cheer here, everybody? A thumbs up. You don't have to know all about replication, content delivery, analytics. So we're basically, that's why I reference back to what I said. You can install a single node data center instance, which is the equivalent of what it was in server, and just work with those features. So there are definitely differences between Jira administration in the cloud and a data center. That's what the focus is going to be, the distinction between those two. But it's not going to be any of the stuff that's specific to data center, clustering, and multiple nodes. So with that, let's go on to questions again.
All right, does anyone have something in mind that they would like to speak to right off the bat? Tell me a name and I'll pull it up if it's live. Or if you want to answer something that someone asked but doesn't want to come on camera to talk about, that's totally fine too.
Danielle had a question about having taken no previous exams but having signed up for ACP 120. So she said she'd purchased certification prep course. Is that enough prep? 5 years experience. Claudia's here as well. Shall I?
Oops,
sorry, and also Danielle. Danielle's here too.
Let's go ahead and I will disable talking for Claudia for the moment. Danielle, you're welcome to come off mute if you'd like to.
So I would say, Danielle, that I would recommend that you did some prep as well in terms of just your own prep. I think that if I'd have walked into the exam with the experience of being a Jira admin and taken the first lot of prep, I'd still tell myself to go through and come up with a little study plan and look at each of those. What I did was I went through all of the topics that are in the exam and the subtopics, and then considered the questions that could be written around that, And one thing that I did try to do when I found particularly useful was try to write questions myself, and thinking about the ways that I could be testing someone specifically on that area. And I found that was particularly useful for me. And I know that in some certain study groups have done that too. So I'd recommend, trying that route. So trying to write questions yourself, or thinking about how a certain question might be routed, is definitely very useful. I don't know if Joanna or Marie have anything to add to that, but as is or if there's anything that you'd yourself like to say additionally to that, Danielle.
No, that's useful. I think so. Working through the sort of prep course, what's there, and then the list of what's sort of been what you showed a minute ago, is probably just focus on that then, and sort of maybe just play around with those features. Is that the best?
Yeah, and also, but I did try and be quite structured with the way that I was approaching it. So, so a topic, and then subtopic, and then, then look at that within Jira, then think about the questions that could be there, then go back to the study materials, then play around with Jira. So I did have to prepare quite a bit, despite the fact that I've been administrating Jira for a long time. It was, it was challenging. It's supposed to be challenging. So definitely do a good bit of prep if you can do, that's what I recommend.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much for your question. That's great. Thank you.
I'll answer Bianca's question, and I'm just going to list them off, but we'll also put this in the community post for the things that you don't need to worry about for the ACP 120. So it's things like you don't have to worry about roadmaps, any Atlassian products other than the non-standard tiers, API scripting, webhooks. We don't include anything about any marketplace apps, mail server configuration, general configuration, and the advanced settings. We don't include any of that. We're not going to include any org admin features. That's actually going to be separate. And then any advanced security configurations like data residency, and also setting up a sandbox. That won't be covered on the 120. So as I mentioned, we'll put this as part of the community post, but those are a few things that you won't need to worry about for the ACP 120.
And I'll drop that community post link in the chat section right here in just a moment as we're talking.
Thank you, Jamie. And I'm just looking through to see if there's someone that's looking for live.
While you're doing that, Marie, I'll jump in. There's a question here from Marcus. I'm going to blow the last name. So Marcus with another follow-up from Federico. That's saying, I'm working more in the back end of Jira and Confluence. Would you recommend the ACP 100 more than the ACP 610 for someone like me? And more so with the global configurations, but 610 should be easier than the 100, right? And then Federico, you answered, I would suggest start with the 610, then take the 100, but keep in mind as cloud is only getting more big. So after 100, try 120. I love it when people answer what we would have said. So thank you for that, jumping in. And more. So yes, and think of it as a superset. So if you're brand new to Jira, you got to know a certain amount of information. This is here, right? As a project admin, you got to know what the Jira end user knows and more, because you're the one that's configuring the projects for people. So in software, it's things like boards, right? And the quick filters for boards, or the components and versions and releasing them. So you got to know what the end user knows and more. And then same with the Jira administration. You got to know what the end users are doing. You got to know what the project admins have control of and what they usually do. And then there's more. You got the global settings that control everything else. So like who's allowed to do bulk updates, because you got to know that that's a global permission that only you can set. So those are really supersets of content. But since we don't want to ask, 60, questions on this exam for project and, 180 for the one on admin, what we do is we focus more in the other areas, but we expect you to know the previous area. So we expect project admins to know what Jira end users do and would know about Jira. And then we expect Jira admins to know what project admins know and do in Jira. But the exam will focus more on the other areas because we don't want to keep you in there for a whole day asking questions. So we sort of expect that you have the previous knowledge. Having said all that, I do confirm we believe, and we've heard back from test takers, that the 600 series is easier than 100 series. So just to give you a little bit more confidence, you might want to attempt those first.
Quick time check for everybody that we have about 9 minutes left for the Q&A portion. So Joanna, I'm not sure if you want to go ahead and move to, are we on tip 4 or tip 5? I've lost track.
We are on tip 4, and yes,
That's
let me
okay.
and let me go to that as
And
soon
maybe
as I
at
have.
this point we can even talk through 4 and 5, Joanna, and then
Sure.
just save the last. And I will cut everybody off at 11:56 to do one more poll.
But guess what? Everybody get excited because these are sample questions. You get 2 sample questions here, which are relevant to both audiences. So here we go. So we're going to talk about the nitty gritty. Let's say you're really ready. You're like chomping at the bit. You want to get certified. You want to go into the test center. So know the exam mechanics. Here we go. First of all, yes, they're all multiple choice. And then there's an essay. No, just kidding. No.
What JIRA means to me.
Yes. How much do you answer every question, because there is no penalty for wrong answers. So even if you guess, you get it right, good for you. Answer everything. Some of our questions have more than one answer. We call that the key. It will tell you that we're looking for 2 or 3 answers, but we don't give you partial credit. So if we say which 3 types of fields will blah, 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 you got to get all 3 right to get that question to count. But again, if you're definitely certain about 2, you're not sure about the 3rd one, guess, right? Because you're not going to get penalized. And then there is a way for you to skip questions and flag them to come back to later. So go through the low-hanging fruit, the stuff you know, flag the stuff you don't know, and come back and think about it. You're going to have 3 hours for the exam. That is plenty of time for you to go back again. So it seems like a long time. You're probably going to get through it much faster. We've heard back that people do. So it's not that sort of time pressure like in some of these Mensa tests or the LSAT tests for law school. You're going to have time. So just try go in there calm and you can do it. With that, sample question number 1, here we go. We're going to use chat for this. If you'd like to out yourself that you think you know what the answer is. So we are going to ask you this.
Actually, real quick, Joanna, I can actually change it so that attendees can chat with everyone so they can see chat answers real quick.
All right.
Got it.
All righty. So first a question. You're the administrator of a large JIRA installation with multiple projects and teams. You want your project leads to be able to manage the following: their own team dashboards, automatic assignment by component, the releasing of versions, and adding and removing users into project roles. So using the default permission scheme and default global permissions and roles, what's the best way to accomplish this? And again, your goal here, if you read this slow enough, I'm going to give you a second to start answering to think about this before I start showing you the possible answers. So the options are, you can add your project lead's user account to the JIRA administrators group. You can assign the administer project's permission to each project lead's user account. You can assign the project role of administrator to project lead's user accounts. Assign the create shared objects permission and the administer projects permission to the project leads group. Oops, sorry. And the answer, here we go. You didn't see the answer.
I'm seeing a lot of C's as guesses. There's a B.
Okay, that's very good that we had the C's, because I hope you typed that before you saw that I flashed it in here. All right, but a couple of you got thrown by B. So let's look at why it's C is the right answer. Sorry about that. I seem to really be messing this up for folks here. C is the right answer, so kudos. But let's see why the other ones are incorrect. So A is incorrect because we don't want to make people a JIRA administrator unless we absolutely have to. So in this case, the 4 requirements you see on the left to be able to do their dashboards, to do automatic assignment, to release versions, to add users to project roles, they don't need to be a JIRA admin. So you don't want to do that unless you absolutely have to, that there's a requirement that would do that. Secondly, since you're using the default permission scheme, it implies that it's shared. So if we add a project lead to the administer project's permission, that would add them to every project, which is also undesirable because that would mean every team, multiple teams. So it's much better to use roles. And so 3, to work with components and versions, you need to be a project admin. And that same applies for add and remove users from the from roles. So basically, assigning the project role of administrator to project leads user accounts is the right way, especially since it's using the defaults. So a little thing about that is you do need to be familiar with what the defaults are like. Hence, I said go back to a fresh install, because by the time you inherit yours, things are going to be different. And last one was D incorrect, because with the default permissions, Jira users should have the global permission create shared objects, so they can already manage team dashboards. So this is a sample question that appears in the prep course. And so if you go through the prep course and you go through such a sample question, we tell you those answers that I just read out. We tell you why an answer is wrong or right. And that's a great way for you to study, because you're learning that information. All right, I know we're getting close to time, so let's go to sample question number 2. It is a long sample question, so I'm going to read it and then we're going to go straight into the answers. Global managers have traveled to HQ for the annual on-site meeting. While preparing a report, Lee and Bob notice that a shared dashboard returns different filter results depending on who is logged in. When Bob views the dashboard, the filter returns 38 issues. But when Lee views it, it only returns 20 issues. The filter that's fueling that dashboard is using the following query: project equals demo and updated greater than start of day. Identify 2 possible reasons that the 2 managers are seeing a different set of issues. Choose 2. So notice we're telling you there's going to be 2 right answers. So take a look. Jira needs to be re-indexed. Lee is missing the browse project permission for the demo project. The security levels on some of the issues exclude Lee. D, Lee has set her page size in her user profile to 20. E, Lee and Bob are using different time zones in their user profiles. And F, Lee has set my changes to do not notify me in her user profile. So I see questions are coming in, or answers are coming in.
Lots of C and E I'm seeing, Joanna.
All right, I'm gonna keep letting the eager beavers here write a little bit more before they get the answer.
And we need 3 more minutes from you, and then we'll be good to move to my final poll.
Good. Okay, C and E wins, and not because it was chosen by the most of you. It wins because it is indeed the right answer. So here's why. So let's look at why C and E are correct. C is correct because if the demo project uses issue level security, then it's possible that some of the issues have a security level that includes Bob, but excludes Lee in the list of permitted users. Because one of the clauses is project is demo, it's getting all the issues. That returns all the issues, but if you can't see all the issues because of security, you're going to see less. So that's definitely a reason. And E, a little trickier, Lee and Bob are using different time zones in their user profile. And remember that the JQL on the left has the start of day function. So the start of day for them is different. And that could be another reason. You know, you have to think through it. It's not a giveaway, but that's it. Now, A was wrong because if indexing was the problem, it would affect the both of them in the same way. B is wrong because he can see the demo project. So if he didn't have browse project permission, he wouldn't see it at all. So that can't be right. The page size setting under preferences just tells you how many issues you can see in Issue Navigator before you have to get to the next page. So that's not relevant here. And the My Changes setting affects notifications, but not the number of issues you're going to see. So some of them are easier to exclude than others, but that's that. All right. The final tip was use us for help. Here we are with this webinar, but also we have a Trello board that we're going to put a link in the chat so you can reference. This is a Trello board template. You can copy and customize it for yourself to help you with that timeline and what you need to study and what you know and what you can flag. So that's it for the official tips. Let's go back into questions.